Hi.
Hello, Gavin.
Hi, Louie.
How are you today?
That was an aggressive hi for me.
Hi!
We're friends! Be my buddy.
No, absolutely not. It's over. This is a purely professional relationship. God.
I believe that. We have had a tragic day, and
We
I'm
did
just
have
going
a
to get
tragic
it.
day.
I'm not going to talk about it, but I just want you guys to know the state that I'm in. Nothing worries Louie. So
nothing, literally.
He is unflappable.
You can't flap me.
No, but this is the Mixed Reviews.
Hi and welcome.
Hi.
So glad you're here.
I'm Gavin.
I'm Louie.
And we are a film podcast in which we talk about something in the film world. Sometimes it's a genre, sometimes it's an actor, sometimes it's a director. And,
This episode, I'm just going to tear the Band-Aid off.
do it.
We're talking about Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
But before we get into him...
I feel like somebody's watching me. Is that a different Rockwell?
I don't know who that is.
That's Rockwell. That's that's Rockwell. Come on.
I don't know the band is Rockwell?
It's a guy, and he paid, his father produced Michael Jackson at the time. And so I believe he's, suddenly can't think of his name. Former husband of Diana Ross. That's his father. He paid Michael Jackson to do the chorus in that song.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Took a turn there.
Someone will listen to this episode and be like, that fucking idiot. I know exactly who it is. I'm going to write in.
Wait, I'm the fucking idiot?
No, me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Probably
both of us.
Side note, before we get into our old business, by the way, there is a party going on outside this door. It's not a large group of people, but it's a dinner party, and it's very delicious. And Louie and I just ate, and we're ready for our naps.
Yes.
And so we're recording this episode, so you might hear some stray noise. Enjoy it, and feel like you're at a dinner party with us.
We're delivering some ambiance, okay?
Exactly.
Guys? Drunken ambiance, the Orangina.
It's a little ambiance, if you will.
Yes, love that. So before we get into Sam, though, and I do want to get into him.
We basically pulled the party, and apparently everybody there does, too.
Yeah, everyone wants to bang Sam Rockwell. Last episode, we talked about the Universal Monster of the Year, if you will.
I will, thank you.
You're welcome.
Seconds, please.
And we asked you what your favorite Universal Monster movie is, and Bride of Frankenstein just took it.
Went to town, and finally I got one that won again.
Yeah, there you go. So Bride of Frankenstein got 50% of the votes. Wolfman got 21% of the votes. My pick, The Black Cat, got 14% of the votes. And we also had some other votes for Phantom of the Opera.
The silent Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dracula. And also Frankenstein.
And I do want to give, as much as I joke about I finally won one again. The nice thing about putting out these polls is that there's really no losers, because I think The Black Cat's an exemplary film. So yeah, I no losers in that poll.
No losers in that poll, but one loser in this room, and it's you.
Get out.
I will not lose.
They fed you food. This is my house.
I know. Oh, Gavin, you treat me so well.
But yes, let us get to our topic of the week. Our topic du jour.
Sam.
We
love him.
Rockwell.
We were looking, in deciding on this topic, we were looking at the movies coming out, and essentially we picked him because he has a movie out now.
Yes.
It's
Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Right. And
it's a new Martin McDonagh film.
Yeah, we were like, oh, who could, there's lots of people in this movie that we could have talked about, you know.
It's shocking, though, because we both actually went and saw it together a couple days ago, and I will admit, he's the second lead, and based on the trailers, I would have assumed, so it's Frances McDormand, Woody Harrelson, and him, and I would have assumed Woody Harrelson was the second lead, and he's genuinely not.
Nope. And we love Frances. She's amazing. But we thought we hadn't done a straight white dude in a while. Yeah. And if we're going to have to do a straight white dude, Sam Rockwell is the one for us to go to. Love him. So yeah, Gavin, it's your turn to do a little rewind. So why don't you tell me a story about Mr. Rockwell?
Sam Rockwell was born in Daly City, California. He's the son of actors who divorced when he was 5 years old. He was raised by his father, Pete Rockwell, in San Francisco, which is a pretty cool place to grow up, if you ask me.
That kind of says a lot about Sam and who he is, and being very cool and open-minded and
absolutely. His mother, Penny Hess, lived in New York. He spent his summer vacations with her.
I grew up in San Francisco, went to high school there, and then I would visit in New York in the summers with my mom. And that's how I got into acting when I was a little kid.
Was your mom an actress?
Yeah, she was an actress, and she sang telegrams. They dress her up in a bellhop suit. And
I don't know that people even know what that means anymore. I don't know that you can...
I know that's true, right?
Yeah, you can't really even send a telegram anymore, can you?
No, I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
She would sing telegrams live. She'd go to very scary places in the late 70s, you know, by herself, and she dragged me with her. She sang a telegram for Jack Lemmon once.
Really?
Yeah, and I think he was a little tipsy at the time. But she'd go all over. She'd go to Harlem and everywhere.
This was in I don't know, I guess in the 50s, the 40s, it was a great idea for a practical joke. Oh, we'll send off a singing telegram.
Yeah, sure.
But you can't make any money at that, can you?
Well, I think she did for a while, but not a lot, you know. It's like a restaurant job or something.
Yeah.
You know?
And what about now, speaking of money, she must be thrilled, right?
Oh, yeah, she's very proud, you know, and I learned a lot about acting from her. And my dad was an actor for a while, too. And
Rockwell had what the New York Times described in 1998 as the, quote, footloose upbringing.
Love that.
And at age 10 made his brief stage debut playing Humphrey Bogart in an East Village improv comedy sketch starring his mother. I love when I'm reading these and I feel like they're edited by the actor themselves. Like,
do you think Sam Rockwell is on Wikipedia being like, I had a very footloose life?
Exactly. He attended the San Francisco School for the Arts with Margaret Cho and Aisha Tyler, but dropped out before graduating. He later received his high school diploma after his parents enrolled him in an Outward Bound style alternative high school called Urban Pioneers because, as Rockwell explained, quote, I just wanted to get stoned, flirt with girls, and go to parties.
Love that.
I've actually heard him say that too, so that must be like his line.
Yeah. Get stoned, flirt with girls, and party. The dream.
I went to this high school of performing arts.
But you got the sickness for the improv.
I got the sickness, and I got trained in improv as a kid, sort of not even knowing I was getting that training. And then
it was part of the theater training.
It's part of the theater, and my mom, she won the Improv Olympics in New York, I think. They gave him a grant. It was the improv troupe was called Joan Crawford's Children, and they did this show, and then I was in the show and stuff.
I was in a school fame kind of school, but I didn't really take it seriously. I just chased girls and you know, smoked pot and stuff like that. The pot. There you go.
He said that the school had a reputation as a, quote, place stoners went because it was easy to graduate. But the program ended up helping him regain an interest in performing. After appearing in an independent film during his senior year, he graduated and moved to New York to pursue an acting career. I do want to give a brief mention. His very first film is this movie called Clown House from 1989. It's a horror film. I highly recommend. It's very accessible. Don't watch it. Mm-hmm. It's directed by Victor Silva, who is a convicted pedophile, a child molester, and the co-star in the film is the person he molested.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so poor Sam Rockwell is involved in this movie. So let's pretend that's not his first film, but just know it exists and you don't need to see it.
I thought Box of Moonlight was his first film.
No, Box of Moonlight's 1997.
Oh.
So, he moved to New York and trained at the William Esper Studios with teacher Terry Knickerbocker. His career slowly gathered momentum in the early 90s. He was a guest star on The Equalizer, NYPD Blue, Law & Order, and he has a very small role in the initial Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film.
That.
Yeah.
Is he Raphael?
Yeah, he's Raphael. It's a very small role.
Check it out, man. Anything you guys want, we got. Anything you want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Anything. You got any cigarettes? Regular or menthol?
He also appeared as the title character in The Search for One-Eyed Jimmy. During this time, Rockwell worked in restaurants as a busboy and delivered burritos by bicycle. This is my favorite fact.
I love that.
At one point, Rockwell even worked as a, quote, private detective's assistant. Quote, I tailed a chick who was having an affair and took pictures for her at a motel, he told Rolling Stone in 2002. It was pretty sleazy. A well-paying Miller commercial in 1994 finally allowed him to pursue acting full-time. I found this Miller commercial. I remember seeing this played
What happens
lot.
In this commercial?
The lady down there wants to buy you a beer.
What lady?
He doesn't get it.
I think he will.
I spurred the right way. For more of what you want in a beer. Bird line for less of what you don't.
Miller Lite Ice. It's new.
I knew you'd get it.
Must be from heaven.
Close. Milwaukee.
as soon as he drinks the beer, he can see the hop and bar around him.
Gotcha. Stupid. Hate it.
Yeah. The turning point in Rockwell's career was Tom DeSillo's 1996 film Box of Moonlight, in which he played an eccentric man-child who dressed like Davy Crockett and lives in an isolated mobile home.
Al, I know you're smart because you got a scientific-style job, but you're not using common sense. If this fight is fake and everybody knows it's fake, then why in the hell would anybody waste their time sitting around watching it?
That's a question you might want to answer one day, Buck.
I know the answer. And this is what's happening all over America now.
This country's being taken over by smart people with no common sense, and that's why I'm out here, man. Just me, my instincts, and nature. That's all you need. See that moon up there? Look at that moon! Shit, you're in the city. You wouldn't even be able to see that.
The ensuing acclaim put him front and center with casting agents and newfound fans alike, with Rockwell himself acknowledging that, quote, the film was definitely a turning point. It was sort of put me on some independent film map after 10 years in New York. He also won strong reviews in 1997 for Lawn Dogs, where he played a working-class lawnmower who befriends a wealthy 10-year-old girl, Misha Barton, who knew she did anything besides the OC.
I literally did not know that she was not just...
Was she on the OC? Was that a good guess?
Yes, that is what she is mostly known for, I would say.
In an upper-class gated community in Kentucky, Rockwell's performance won him Best Actor honors at both the Montreal World Film Festival and the Catalan International Film Festival. In 1999, he played William Wild Bill Wharton in Stephen King's prison drama The Green Mile. At the time of the film's shooting, Rockwell explained why he was attracted to playing such unlikable characters. He said, quote, I like the dark stuff. I think heroes should be flawed. There's a bit of self-loathing in there and a bit of anger. But after this, I've really got to play some lawyers or a British aristocrat or they'll put a label on me.
Yeah.
I love that he said that. His career went on from there. He has a small role. It's not a small role, but it's like the role that nobody really thinks about in Galaxy Quest. He's really great in Galaxy Quest. He's in Midsummer's Night's Dream. He plays the villain in Charlie's Angels.
So good.
Spoiler, sorry.
So good.
And his biggest leading role to date, I guess to date, sort of. No, I don't. It is and it isn't, because it's his biggest film, I feel like, is 2002's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind,
right,
directed by George Clooney, in which he plays Chuck Barris, who was the host of The Gong Show, but also claimed to be an assassin for the CIA.
Right. Is that George Clooney's first movie he made? I feel like it is.
I think it might be. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but it's definitely up there amongst the first, because it is prior to Good Night and Good Luck, and that's the one that won him all the accolades. Because
I don't think he's made many movies.
No.
As a director.
No, he's made 7 or 6, because he has a new one out. He like, after that, like, literally, career explosion. He's in Matchstick Men for Ridley Scott, which is crazy because I was under the impression that Ridley Scott hadn't made a movie since the early 90s. And then I remember that's Ridley Scott hasn't made a good movie since the early 90s. Sick burn, Gavin.
You're a hater.
Take that, Ridley. I hope you hear it.
Didn't he just make that Prometheus?
Yeah, right. I said my piece.
Okay.
He then played Zaphod Beeblebrox in the 2005 film version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
So fun.
He ends up playing Casey Affleck's brother, Charlie Ford, in The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, in which is an independent film all about the death of Jesse James, and it's a really good movie, but it's also about 1 billion years long.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, he's in the second Iron Man movie, and just on from there. He does Moon, which is a big, huge independent film. He does the Chuck Palahniuk adaptation Choke. And since then, he literally just keeps working and working.
Right.
He does anything that comes his way. He does TV. He did Martin McDonagh's previous film, Seven Psychopaths. He also did the Nat Faxon and Jim Rash film, The Way, Way Back, which people thought he was going to get nominated for an Academy Award for, and then that never materialized. In 2015, he did the remake of Poltergeist. And now
he's everywhere.
He's just everywhere.
I mean, I've done stuff for money and I've regretted it, and I mean, the stuff that I really regret turning down is usually, it's not a film, it's usually, although I did turn down The Incredibles, the cartoon, and I regret that.
You regret it because it was
really,
successful?
Because
or they did it well?
Successful, but also it was really good.
May I take a guess that you were going to be the Jason Lee role?
I'm not going to answer that. But
you're allowed to ask, and he's allowed to not answer.
That's okay.
But
you can tell me later.
But I regretted not doing it, and then usually I regret like not doing like a play in Ireland or something. You know, like having an experience, like a Pillow Man is something I regret not doing. You know, like, but I usually haven't regretted, like you said, like a film thing. It's kind of like,
yeah.
And as you mentioned before, he has a new film out, which is why we did this. And,
right. It's weird because I remember I was watching one of those like Academy Roundtable things, and it was for women, and they had asked someone, I can't remember who it was. They were like, "What if you could have like? Are there any careers that you really admire?" And this actress was just like Sam Rockwell.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, he's able to do so many different things. He works on like a couple different levels. He is just kind of like laid back, every uncle character. You know, like it's just kind of like. You know, like from the way back or, like even Lawn Dogs and stuff. It's just like very kind of like easy breezy stuff. Or it's like insane, like super, balls to the wall type of stuff for like Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even like nonsensical things like The Sitter.
Yeah. And like he's clearly a very loyal actor. He's worked with multiple directors over the course of the years. He's worked with I suddenly forgot that David Gordon Green, who did The Sitter, as well as Snow Angels, which is another film he did with him, and the guy that directed Napoleon Dynamite. He's done 2 films with him. He even did an episode of the Napoleon Dynamite cartoon, and there's a rumor that he's cameoing in Duncan Jones's next film, Mute, for Netflix, as the character he played in Moon.
Oh, no shit.
So, like, yeah.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Also, have to note, a Sam Rockwell movie is not good unless there is Sam Rockwell dancing.
The man loves to dance, and he's good at it.
He's so fucking good.
And it's so funny because there's even movies where, like, the aforementioned Lawn Dogs, where, like, he's dancing sillily. Yeah. Like, I can't dance, but he's still, like, on rhythm.
He just exudes, like, charisma and charm.
Is it true that Sam has it in his contract that he has to do at least one dance move per movie, even if it's just in the end credits? Or if they don't agree, is it a deal breaker?
It is a deal breaker. It's a little homage to Chris Walken, but it's also, my girlfriend's giving me a hard time about that. She's like, again with the dancing in the movie? Come on.
Why are you not allowed to have fun?
Well, it's getting a little repetitive. It's getting a little redundant. So
you need new moves.
I need new moves.
Maybe that's all it is.
I need some new moves.
Yeah.
Good or bad. I mean, there's a film called Mr. Right, written by Max Landis.
Right.
That starts with him dancing.
Yeah, like, it's so good.
It's just, you need Sam Rockwell to dance. I will also admit, ladies, he's unfortunately taken.
Yeah.
He's had the same girlfriend, Leslie Bibb, since 2007. I am a huge Leslie Bibb fan.
I love that.
I know that's like a weird, Leslie Bibb starred on the only good Ryan Murphy written thing.
Correct.
Popular. But
my goodness, what a great show.
Yes, but anyway, I digress. I like the fact that they're together.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of movies together as well. They did Digging for Fire. They're in Iron Man 2 together.
Oh, right.
So I don't know. I really enjoy that they're, and she's commented on their relationship, and like, they just seem like they have a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
What's also really interesting about going back and watching earlier Sam Rockwell's career is how fearless he is. I'm going to mention this, but towards the end of this rant, but like, he took roles that I think other young working actors, might take to try and stand out, and he doesn't do, he doesn't like try and steal the scene. He's not like a scenery chewer.
No, not at all.
But I'm thinking of this movie called In the Soup that he did, where he's in like 2 or 3 scenes, in fact, and he plays a 20-year-old with autism who's like very severe autism. And he's amazing in these like 2 scenes, and he really sticks with you, but he's not doing any, like, it's not like a really affected performance or anything. It's just like this autistic person.
Right.
I think he's really great. Also, as I mentioned before, I was going to mention at the end of his rant, totally not afraid to be nude.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He is full frontal in a lot of his independent films.
That's great.
It's not a bad thing.
It's really great.
Yeah. It's really like, we both watched Lawn Dogs.
Get yourself to see some Lawn Dogs.
Yeah.
He's like an ex-high school diver.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, okay. And it's not gratuitous, but it's enough. Mm-hmm. And then I watched the movie, A Box of Moonlight, and he also does a lot of nude diving in that. And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I am seeing a lot of Sam Rockwell's Rockwell.
So, that was stupid, but I liked it.
Thank you.
Also, like, he also plays, like, sometimes very angry people.
Yes.
Like, and, like, he very much gets inside the head of, like, did you watch Conviction?
No, I did not. Yeah.
Him and Hilary Swank, which, it's like kind of like a very Oscar baity movie, but I like Hilary Swank, and he's also very good in it. And again, dancing, guys who like maybe have fallen on hard times, but but he's likable. He's able to paint pictures or like, give layers to characters who maybe would be, really unlikable or, scary perhaps. Also, One Shot, which I did not like. Mostly because it sounded like everyone was really, really leaning into their Southern accents. I was like, what the fuck is anyone saying?
He plays Southern a lot, which is interesting because as we mentioned, his background is both California and New York. It's not Southern, but
he does Southern a lot.
Something about the way he purses his mouth when he talks that I think people cast him as Southern. I know that doesn't necessarily
when you look at him, when you look at him, you see like, I would look at him and be like, oh, he definitely looks like he could be from Kentucky.
Yeah,
like,
he's got a little good old boy appeal
very,
to him.
I mean, he's got a very baby face, and I listened to an interview, that he gave to, like, NPR, or maybe it was, like, somewhere in Canada. I don't know what it was. But he said, now that he's kind of, older now, his baby face has kind of, like, started to go away, and he said, I'm really excited to, like, be able to play, characters that aren't so, young, because he's read young for so long. I mean, even in Mr. Right, he's paired up with Anna Kendrick, who I don't know exactly what the age difference is, but it felt a little bit like, why? I think they both have like that same energy, like youthful, like, the movie
It's funny, in the same year, they play not a couple, but they're in the movie Digging for Fire together.
Oh,
and I was like really weirded out by, I mean, once again, it's not anything to do with that, but I was like, oh, that's so odd.
Yeah. Mr. Right was fine, I guess.
We should maybe move into our picks, but just real quick, also, according to, accounts of his personal life, just bringing it back to, his relationship, he's never been married, and he says he's perhaps not even interested in, ever having children.
Wow.
Like, he was quoted as saying, I quote, I definitely don't want to become a parent. It's not my bag.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's interesting.
So good for him to, like,
I mean, it's fun, like, all those interviews, I've seen a couple of things where he's, like, talking about going to Sundance and like having a bunch of fun, and someone had asked him what are like the Survivor things that you need to go to Sundance, and he said like something like alcohol and condoms, assless chaps.
Yeah.
And like when he becomes like very like shy. He's like, oh, I said that, I don't know, like
yeah, well, I could probably give people tips on how to survive Sundance, because I've been here like 5 times, maybe 6 times. I don't know.
I think it's needed.
Yeah,
I really think
I could tell you seriously what you need to do, but
you're the only guy who didn't say skis.
I think you should bring condoms, though. I think condoms is probably a good idea. I have a girlfriend. I don't need condoms, but it's probably a good idea if you're down here and you're single. And I would definitely bring a lot of water and hydrate, a lot of hydration. The altitude is very dry up here. I would go to bed as early as you can. I know people are tempted to go to these parties. They want to drink a lot.
You're against that.
No, that's okay. You're going to have fun, but like, moderation, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You know what I mean?
What are the chaps for? And the cowboy
chaps
hat,
is just really just
which you're actually wearing today.
Just to feel good. It makes you feel good and you look good. I think a good pair of assless chaps can really make you sing in the snow. You know
and it's okay then to stay in the room when that happens. Yeah.
I think it's fine. As long as you feel good, it doesn't matter really how you look. But I think people look fabulous in that. So.
He's definitely that like guy friend who you can like kind of always like count on, or like, to crack a joke, have fun. He seems immensely charming, and it's really great fun seeing movies like the comedies that he's in, really leaning into that, and it's even more exciting seeing dramas where he's able to like kind of inhabit these really harder characters where it's not so just like laid back.
Yeah. So I think it's time we moved into our picks.
Yeah.
And because I really like Sam, we're on first name basis.
I hate him. The worst.
And I figured it sounds like you do too. Maybe we should get our 1-star reviews out of the way.
Okay, sure.
And then do our 5-star reviews. Just because he seems like too nice to like shit on the way out.
Right. My 1-star review goes to Gentleman Broncos.
Oh my god. Go on.
Because
I have to change my plans, but go on.
I just had so Gentleman Broncos is a movie that came out in 2009, done by the Napoleon Dynamite characters, Jared Hess.
Yes.
And it's like the trailer for it is like a movie that has like another point, like a point of view, like a different point of view. And I was like, okay, so they're really going to try hard to like sell this as like a Napoleon Dynamite, like weird, quirky, left of field movie. And he isn't the star of this movie. The star of this movie is Michael, and I can't say his last name. Jack's son in Will and Grace.
Yes, there you go.
That's my reference point because I'm gay.
What?
I know, shocking. And
you're here first, coming out on the podcast.
Essentially, he's a teen. His mom is Jennifer Coolidge. And he's a teen who writes fantasy, sci-fi, novels. He goes to a conference, to see like his hero talk. Turns out his hero's a hack. And his hero essentially steals his novel, changes like some names, and is selling a buttload of books. Sam Rockwell plays the title character Bronco in this novel, and so like the movie like splits off. Like sometimes like someone will be reading the story, and then you get like actual scenes of the actual book. And Sam Rockwell has to like. I don't know. He
has to play both versions of Bronco. In one,
it's Bronco.
In Bronco, it's in Michael Oregano's.
Oregano.
Yeah. Tastes like soap in the mouth. It's him or it's Jermaine Clements who plays his, hero, the guy that's
right. Yeah.
It's in his version. It's Brutus or Brutisius or
something crazy. Well, in that version, he's playing I'm going to say gender fluid.
I just think it's offensive. I think what he's doing is offensive.
I don't think it's offensive. I think the way that the movie handled it, I mean, there's a scene where Michael's character is like, it's my character, it's my book, you just made him into, and he says the T word, for, transgendered.
Yeah.
And I was like, the character, essentially, he puts on like a wig, he has a mustache.
I made us a time capsule. I put a buttload of keepsakes in it. We can send it floating downstream, and that way if we die, future generations will learn from us. Look at this. It's a friendship stone. Come closer. Let's blow on it. You blow first.
He's very lispy and swishy.
Yeah, and he's as fey as you can possibly get.
Right.
As like it feels like a person making fun of.
Right. I mean, I guess they're making a joke.
Yeah.
Part of me was like, I would definitely see, Sam Rockwell play a transgender, gender fluid character.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, okay,
oh, cause
sure.
he could pull it off, but this was not.
But the joke was just like, oh, I changed the character. And
the joke was like, he changed the character into someone fey, and like, that's not acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, and so, Napoleon Dynamite, I remember enjoying when it came out, and this is no Napoleon Dynamite. This is just like, the jokes are very blah. Who's that guy who wrote School of Rock? He's in this movie.
Mike White.
He produced this.
He produced it as well, yeah. I know.
I mean, just reading this, $10 million was what this movie was made on. Someone give $10 million. There's like scenes where like, he projectile vomits to make a deer run away, like a missile deer. It's very bizarre and not.
It's interesting because we sort of talked about this a little bit when we talked about, Diego Luna when we talked about Casa de Mi Padre.
Yeah.
There's this very there seems to be this younger filmmaker style that's very reverent of the really shoddily made science fiction films of the 70s.
Yeah, I get that.
And not even just science fiction, but the nighttime miniseries sort of. But the thing is when the Napoleon Dynamite people do it, it's not done as parody. Yeah. And I guess to the extreme of that, you have somebody like Wes Anderson who takes those aesthetics, but really plays with them in a way that's much more cinematic. And he's really more of a Hal Ashby sort of guy, where this is more like being poorly made for the sake of being poorly made.
Yeah.
And the artifice becomes part of what you're experiencing as a viewer, but it doesn't fully work because it's neither played for laughs nor played for seriousness.
No. And I mean, there is one moment in that movie that I think works, and it's at the end when it's revealed that the mom has the copyright for all of his books because she believed in him or whatever. Right. And I was like, oh, that's a sweet moment. But literally everything else, the jokes aren't there really.
Land. No.
There's one Native American or Hispanic character who has this crazy
I read him as Latin, but yeah.
Stretched out face, and that's the joke. He talks crazy and has his mouth wide open,
and he wants to he's making a film version of it, and he wants to play the lead woman, and that's sort of played as a negative joke.
It's all this very not. I mean, whereas Napoleon Dynamite, there are actually some things that are I get it. I understand the aesthetic that they're going for. The music was good. And this though was just full on too much. And I appreciate movies that are balls to the wall crazy. This was lazy.
Well, since you picked that, I mean, that would have been my choice. I'll be perfectly honest, but I'm going to piggyback off that because I'm staying with the same director. There's a 2015 film called Don Verdain, which he did.
I didn't watch that one.
Okay.
I was should I watch Don Verdain or Gentleman Broncos?
It's still Sam Rockwell. This time he is the main character. Jermaine Clement is still involved with the cast, and the rest of the cast is Amy Ryan, Will Forte, and Danny McBride. And it's essentially a film about a religious archaeologist, Don Verdain, who got famous for discovering something 10 years ago and now hasn't had any big discoveries. So he starts faking his discoveries. He finds the skull of Goliath at one point, and then he wants to track down the Holy Grail. And part of the thing is that we do is we're not necessarily here to, I mean, we can tell you a film is bad, but we're not necessarily, this episode's about Sam Rockwell.
Right.
So, as bad as Gentleman Broncos was, there also has to be a component that Sam Rockwell's performance was perhaps not up to par. And, I really like him, and I think he can do anything, but in this movie, this is a bad movie in general, but also he's playing this monotone type character, and everything is delivered. And one of the things that's great about Sam Rockwell is how charming he is.
Yeah.
And I really think if you remove that from him, he's at 20% power.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to watch him in this film.
He's just not effective.
He's just not effective. He's super boring. Everybody else is incredibly over the top.
You sick man, Don.
Easy now, Boaz. Let's talk about this, all right?
No, there's nothing to talk about. You're grave-robbing creep. Dismembering the head of Johnny Jerusalem? Johnny Jerusalem is a hero here.
Listen to me now, Boaz. I was always going to put him back, give him the proper hero's burial, but you need to understand why I had to do this. I'm doing it for the good of everyone.
I should report you to the authorities right now.
Now, let's not be rash here. I'm sure there's something we can work out between us.
You're trying to bribe me, Don? I don't want your filthy lucre.
What do you want?
I want to come to the States. I want to live the American dream for a while. Get a Pontiac. And I want Levi's jeans, acid wash, super taper, like John Stamos.
I just want to talk a bit about Jared Hess's style, because you mentioned Napoleon Dynamite. I remember seeing Napoleon Dynamite years ago after it was a phenomenon. I didn't see it in the theaters.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, it's okay. I've seen a lot of indie films that are like this, and I think now after having watched at least 3 or 4 of this guy's films, I think what I don't understand about the things that he writes and the things that he's interested in is he's really interested in the character arc of characters who are losers to begin with and still wind up being losers. And like, I know as you mentioned, without that scene at the end of Gentlemen Broncos in which you find out his mother has been,
like on the sly supporting him.
Yeah.
And like,
but that's like an external cause. Like Michael Oregano's, or however you say his name, his character's still kind of a loser.
Right.
And Don Verdain is a film filled with losers, and their character arc is they're losers until an external thing sort of happens. So I'll spoil this for you. Like, he falls in love with Amy Ryan. She's like an assistant who works for him, and then when she finds he's faking things, she's like, I hate him. But over the course of the film, you find out she has an adult son who's in prison. And in the end, he gets caught and goes to prison. And the very last scene is him seeing her son in prison at like the food, like the cafeteria area, and going to go sit with him and being like, I know your mom. And like, that's like the big character arc. But like, his character's still like a terrible person. And like, I don't have to find a person not terrible to like a movie. There's plenty of movies that I think they're really fascinating, terrible people.
Right.
But there's not a lot of draw to the things that Jared like Napoleon Dynamite in Napoleon Dynamite's not really a great person. His brother's not really a great person.
No. I mean, like, I think in Napoleon Dynamite, it was like a lightning in a bottle situation though, because like that character itself and the actor and it all came to, and it was new. So like, it felt like these characters in Gentlemen Broncos, I was like, none of these characters are terribly exciting or like engaging. Or as opposed to like seeing Napoleon Dynamite, it's like, Tina, eat the food. Like, that was fucking funny. Like, you know.
But yeah, it's like the arc seems to be missing from his films. Like the hero's journey, and I'm not saying that every film has to have a hero's journey, but like the hero's journey is from like nowhere to nowhere.
Right.
And it's this peak inside these incredibly mundane people's lives, and they try and fill the mundaneness with these jokes, and
it's like,
and if they don't hit, then you're left with nothing.
Well, it's like mundane people, but that have like very they're eccentric, but like in very like, I don't know, stifled ways, or it's like, oh, she's eccentric because she has a side ponytail, or they're eccentric because like,
well, even just like in Gentlemen Broncos, there's a scene where like he's getting shot at. And like, his revenge is like, he takes some blow darts and dips them in poop.
Right.
And then shoots them at the guy. And it's the weirdest, like, why, I don't, it just, it's not a joke.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing.
Yeah. A lot of it is just like, so this is not a joke. This is just like weird.
And so I just think like, maybe Jared Hess,
you don't think he can like direct a movie at all?
Yeah, it's not necessarily I don't think he can direct a movie at all, but I don't think he's very good with actors, and I definitely think he doesn't understand the things that make Sam Rockwell appealing, because like even in Gentlemen Broncos, the situation in which he's playing the very butch like over the top version of Bronco, he like, it's still not clicking fully. It's not like, it's such a parody of a thing.
Especially since we've seen him play kind of like space cowboy in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it's like really fun and engaging.
And like, or like, cause even like the little bit of sleaze that he has, like you've seen he can do that in, Galaxy Quest, because he's a little like greedy, greasy sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, even that doesn't, it's just all so flat in one note. And I wonder if he like felt that and therefore made him like such a, monotone presence in Don Verdain, but that's definitely the route you don't want to go.
Wow, it seems like we both were like, these Napoleon Dynamite movies.
Yeah.
Definite low point for Sam Rockwell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and once again, I mentioned, he's very loyal. He's clearly very loyal, but maybe stop working with Jared Hess.
Were there other movies that you did not like?
There were a couple. I'll be honest, I didn't love Box of Moonlight. I know that was his first pick. He's really great in it. Once again, and I'm not here to really judge the movies as a whole, but I can tell you, like, movies I didn't like. Yeah, Box of Moonlight's not great. It's a very 90s, independent film. And I saw a couple of his other 90s independent films, like I said, In the Soup or, Lawn Dogs, and like, those are great, but this just this misses the mark, like, every time it gets a chance to, like, hit the mark, it's just this very simple story and this very, like, it's just a not great film. Though, if you want to see his peen.
There you go.
Yeah.
The winning season was maybe, before I saw, Gentlemen Broncos or One Shot. The winning season is, you can tell the person who made this, like, loved this story and tried to make this, like, a thing.
Yeah.
But it's just so fucking all over the place. Margot Martindale's in this movie.
Oh, character actress Margot Martindale?
Yes, correct. Rooney Mara's in this movie also as like a teen. It's a weird movie just about like, it's not that weird. It's just like a really shittily made movie.
Yeah.
But anyway.
The remake of Poltergeist is particularly bad. Not because of anything that, I mean, it's pointless. And like it's one of those movies where he's sort of cast as an everyman. And I will admit, like, he's just not as compelling. When you're able to compare directly to, he's no Craig T. Nelson. And that's a weird statement I never thought I'd be making, but Craig T. Nelson is such a presence in the original Poltergeist.
You're no Craig T.
That he's not great. And also Mr. Right is a really fucking bad movie. And I know you think it's an alright movie, but he's really good and charming and,
he sells it. Anna
Kendrick's really good and charming, but oh my god, what a stupid fucking movie.
I'm surprised.
Max Landis.
I'm surprised that wasn't your pick. I thought that was going to be your...
No, he's not bad in it. He's fine. He dances.
A lot. I mean, I think Max Landis movies are interesting just in the fact that, like,
interesting is not what I'd call him.
Just that, like, he is, like, it's almost like the tweest Zooey Deschanel of movies.
Yeah.
Where it's just, like... Every moment is just
that fucking scene where her roommates like said something and she's like blah 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 and she responds with, "I always wanted to date Lex Luthor."
Why? Do you think he's evil? What if he is? When I was little, I had this fantasy that I was dating Lex Luthor
from Superman. Wasn't he like a genius? Your guy's more like a sexy Rain Man or something.
Thank you.
Neither of you know who Lex Luthor is. I don't believe you.
I don't know. It's a very bizarre, like, I mean, I guess that's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like, oh, what would happen if you're dating like a serial killer or whatever the fuck, assassin. I thought it was fun enough. Like, for a Max Landis movie, it's like if you're gonna go watch a Max Landis movie, you know what you're gonna get. You know it's gonna be like bonkers.
And it's probably the least offensive of, I mean, the women are not treated that terribly in that film.
Right. But also there is like a scene where they're like, he's like teaching her how to like, the energy in the waves.
Oh yeah,
because
like, he's actually like secretly a superhero, and so is she.
Right, like, right. And she's like, oh yeah, now I can like throw fucking
I can catch knives and
I was like, okay, cool.
But yeah, so I mean, there's been other films that are not great that I mean, Iron Man 2 is like the messiest of all Iron Man movies, but he's really fun in it.
Right.
Seven Psychopaths I actually think is a bit of a misstep for Martin McDonagh, but he's good in it. Like these are directors and people that really know how well he plays. He's really good in Laggies, and Laggies is a pretty normal role.
Yeah, and like so Laggies is kind of in that like laid back version, this cool guy, normcore self.
But I guess that would bring us to our 5-star reviews.
I have loved this movie for a long time, and I watched it again, and I was like, yep, I fucking love this movie. And my pick is The Way, Way Back. And he's not like doing a lot in this movie. It's not, as intense as Confessions of a Dangerous Mind or, one of the movies where he's really inhabiting intense characters. This is truly him at his easiest, breeziest role, and
he's so good in it. I'll be the first to admit, I don't love The Way, Way Back, but I love him in The Way, Way Back.
I saw this movie by myself when I was living in San Francisco, and I was just like, so The Way, Way Back is about a 14-year-old named Duncan, and he's going on summer vacation with his mom, played by Toni Collette, who's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're going to it's like a summer vacation town.
Yeah, it's like a vacation house next to a water park.
They're going with her boyfriend, who's played by Steve Carell, and Steve Carell playing the skeeziest fucking
He's really
monster.
Good in it too, yeah. There's just something about the script that doesn't fully connect with me, but I like a lot of the components of it.
Yeah, and so Allison Janney plays a next door neighbor, who's great. Maya Rudolph is also in this movie. Just like a really strong cast. It was directed by Nat Faxon and Jim Rash. Jim Rash, who you might know from Community. And he's also in this movie. And so essentially Duncan hates his fucking, mom's boyfriend, who literally at the opening of this movie is literally saying, if you could rate yourself, what would you rate yourself? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate yourself? And I went on it wasn't a date. I was like out with some friends, in the Castro once, and like an older guy was just like, he asked me the same thing once. What would you rate yourself?
Terrifying.
And I was like, I don't think we should like, number human beings, like how good they are. And he's like, well, you could be an 8 if you smiled more.
Fuck him. What?
I was like, fuck you, I'm a 10 always.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
You're like, I don't want to put a number on it, but it's over 10.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Duncan goes on this summer vacation and he's having a really horrible time. And there's like a bunch of crazy characters until he hates, Steve Carell's character. He, stumbles upon like a water park. I think it's called Wiz World.
Yeah.
And Owen, which is, Sam Rockwell, is the manager there, and Maya Rudolph is kind of like the second in command there. And he ends up getting a job, and he essentially is...
Their chemistry, by the way. Maya Rudolph and Sam Rockwell's chemistry is amazing.
Yeah. Oh my god, so good. And it's, again, so easy. Both those people who are so funny, and they're funny in this movie, but also in a very laid-back way. And essentially, this water park becomes an oasis, an escape for him, and he finds a male figure in his life that is positive and is uplifting him and not, like, belittling him. And he essentially... he's hiding that he has this job. There's a really great moment in the movie when, he's showing him around the water park and he's like doing all these bits and gags.
Water Whiz Water Park, built in the summer of '83, is the last bastion of everything that time period stood for. In fact, it was decreed by its creator that this place shall never age. On his deathbed, he said, I don't want this place repainted or updated. I don't even want it brought up to code. The minute someone tries, it needs to be destroyed. We actually have a nuclear bomb for just such an occasion. Bought it off the Russians. Really? You still good with all that? Even the Russian thing? That's Cold War. It's kind of dated. All right, thanks. That was wasted a bit.
Hey.
Hey.
Some kid threw up near Crazy Tube.
What? Why is this the first I'm hearing of this? Damn it, woman. Caitlin Duncan, Tony Mary Beth.
Hi, Duncan. Also, I need you to reorder more mats.
Did it?
Finish the work schedule for next week.
Did it?
Change all the filters.
Done.
Right. So you know I'm going to check all that stuff, right?
Oh, in that case, I didn't do any of that.
Right, so I'm doing it.
It's called delegation, baby. I read about it in the book about it. That's the one you wait for, my man. Oh, yeah. See, she looked back. She likes me.
And Sam Rockwell's like, okay, I'm wasting all this great material on you, kid. You gotta keep it up. Like, we gotta, like, fast forward these conversations. And so the movie is just, like, this kind of, I don't know if it's complicated. It's just, like...
It's not, I mean, it's like it's a coming-of-age tale.
Yeah, it's a coming-of-age tale, but also, like, Toni Collette finds out that, you know, Steve Carell's cheating on her, and it's only complicated in the way that this kid Duncan really wants him and his mom to be in this together, and like, you know, they don't need Steve Carell, and her life is okay without him, and yeah.
I mean, yeah, in a way it's a coming of age tale for her as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even though she's an adult, like, everybody's this is so, like, self-help book of me, but everybody's constantly coming of age, and so,
yeah, she's trying to, like, recreate this life for her and her son, and, you know, we find out that his real dad, who he's hoping, you know, like, I just want to be with dad, and turns out that dad doesn't really want him and has moved on in his life, and so yeah, I love this movie a lot. I don't know. For me, I felt very emotionally moved by it, and I think Sam Rockwell is a big part of it. Just kind of like when he finally does stand up to Steve Carell, and like you said, the chemistry with Maya Rudolph. It's a really sweet movie, and yeah, it's kind of like, for me, it's like the purest essence of Sam Rockwell, and of course, you get him dancing, and it's great.
I'm glad you picked that, because that is a really solid performance. I mean, it's a really amazing performance.
Yeah, and it's like we were saying, it's not like showy or over the top. It's very soft, but like funny. And I don't know. This is the best, I think, example of him playing like a good, father figure, dad character who, and he's said in, interviews when he was promoting this movie that he had a lot of these characters as a kid growing up. They're just like men that you meet in your life that, genuinely are helpful and give you advice to like live a better life. So
yeah,
way back.
So my choice is actually a kind of showy performance, but it's a necessary showy performance. And, it is, in the 2002 film Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which brought up a bunch. And you're right. You are correct. Actually, it is George Clooney's first film. First of all, Sam Rockwell was not even the first choice for this film. It was like Johnny Depp and like, Matt Damon, was involved in the early bits of it, but ended up just cameoing for free.
But yeah, that experience was kind of amazing, and really, George really went to bat for me, and I'll never forget that. I mean, you know, they did not want me for that film, you know, but...
well, they want a marketable name.
They want a marketable name.
Let's be specific as to why someone might not want what
exactly
you
right.
could bring.
I met Bryan Singer a year before for that movie, and he cast Johnny Depp, I think, and there was Sean Penn, Robert Downey Jr., all these people, Ed Norton. A lot of people were talked about for Chuck Barris. And but yeah, no, George really, him and Steven Soderbergh are the reason I got that movie.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is the quote-unquote true story of Chuck Barris, the host of The Gong Show, but he also created many things. He created The Dating Game, and so many other weird TV
it's like
things.
ABC game show nonsense.
He wrote the song Palisade Park, and
he was a true artiste.
He really was. But he also claimed in one of his autobiographies that he was secretly working for the CIA as a hitman.
I spent a lot of time with Chuck. A lot of time with
What are you legally allowed to share with us?
I don't know where Chuck is right. I think he's in Paris or something.
Let's just put him in Paris for now.
That's
where I'd like him to be.
I miss that guy. I haven't seen him in a while. But yeah, I had George gave me a camera, a video camera, and he said, I want you to go hang out with Chuck and videotape everything. And that's what I did. We hung out all the time. And he was really into Les Paul music. And that's how I kind of got the movement of his dancing, is I would watch him dance to Les Paul. And I had him tape my lines in a tape recorder, like an old-fashioned cassette, and all this stuff, and ad-lib. I'd say, what would you say? Say the Charlie Kaufman stuff, and then say what you'd say. And we kind of, did that whole thing.
How thrilled was he?
He loved it, man. He was, he was loving it.
Yeah.
And, we got into all that stuff. Did you kill all these people? And, he said yes, and it was wild, man. I mean...
Was there ever a time where you were convinced one way or the other 100%? Or do you just automatically can't help but assume, of course he didn't do this?
I'm going to take the fifth. For Chuck's sake. I'm going to take the fifth.
Well, it's a much better answer, and it's a much better story if he and you and George and everyone continue to take the fifth, because the rest of us are just forced to wonder.
That's right. That's right.
Much better.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the only time the CIA has ever actively responded to has someone been in your organization?
And they said, what did they say, no?
They said at the CIA, we are not in the practice of confirming or denying if anyone has ever worked for us, but in Mr. Barris's case...
They said no.
He did not. Yeah. Of course they're going to say that.
I had no idea who this person was until I watched this movie.
If you go back and watch Chuck Barris clips, he's got him. He's dead to rights Chuck Barris.
And it's wild because this movie is not like your typical biopic, paint by numbers movie.
One of the things first of all, I really love the way the film's made. So the script was written by Charlie Kaufman, who wrote Being John Malkovich and, adaptation. I just kept thinking The Orchid Thief, which is what adaptation was an adaptation of. And, it's funny because he actually ended up disowning the film because George Clooney came in and made changes to it.
Really?
Which is funny because it actually feels a lot more like a Charlie Kaufman film than you'd think it would. I mean, it's a lot of seamless editings. A lot of scenes move from one place to another without a single cut at all. And also in between, there's interviews with the real people who are there. You have Mean Gene Dancing Machine, who first of all, doesn't have legs anymore because he lost some diabetes. And, George Clooney wasn't going to film his legs and he asked him to. Because he was like, I want people to know what happens. Right. But other people that were really involved who have no idea about this other portion of his life that he claims to have had. And you get the impression that Chuck Barris is, perhaps just this is an amazing con man. That maybe he believed he did these things, but they never actually happened. Or maybe he's just telling them to inflate his own importance, but he's a genius level intellect wasting his time on sort of frivolous.
Wait, so you don't think this happened at all?
I don't. And this movie's filled with so many people. I mean, there's Drew Barrymore and Julia Roberts, who both worked for Scale. Brad Pitt's in it briefly. Michael Cera plays Chuck at a really early age.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's in it for a hot second.
Yeah, and the list sort of goes on in terms of other people who are in it. It's a really, really funny, really, really dark.
Super dark.
Super dark. It's it's equally as much of a comedy, a crazed out comedy, as it is a really difficult drama about a man who's sort of falling apart.
I gotta confess, something I gotta tell you. Listen, Penny. You know me for a long time.
As the host of the dating game, the Gong Show, rah-rah show.
Yeah. Listen. I worked for the CIA. Do you understand?
And I killed people. I killed a lot of people. You understand? I killed a lot of people.
I came up with a new game show idea recently. It's called The Old Game. You got 3 old guys with loaded guns on stage. They look back at their lives, see who they were, what they accomplished, how close they came to realizing their dreams. The winner is the one who doesn't blow his brains out. He gets a refrigerator.
It was wild watching it, not knowing anything about like this man and what he was and what he did. And so watching the interviews, I was like, wait, is this part of like the movie style or like are these? And then it hit me at the very end when they like finally show the actual Chuck Barris. And I was like, oh shit, like this guy, like these are actual interviews with real people who were like, you never knew where he was.
Right.
And like, I don't know the whole bit. Like one of the things to me was like, oh, well, what if we take their first dates from the dating game in like Germany or like random fucking places like that. And for me, I was like, this motherfucker worked for the CIA. He's really good because the movie kind of like goes all over the place in time, right? It's not like,
it's not a linear timeline. Right. The movie itself, it's not a linear performance.
But you get like a lot of different, like, so you get a lot of like levels from him. Like you get him like, you know, going crazy. You get him like ambitious and young and like, it's a really, complicated performance, I think. And he killed it.
I still think it's probably the most complicated performance of his career. And it's still really fun and really light. And he has a way of exuding the internal stuff that other people can't put out.
Right.
There.
But like, even in the movie, like, there are moments when it gets really tense. Like when he gets paranoid about like they're coming to kill him and like, and so he's on the show dancing and singing, but also at any moment you think this whole production is going down. Yeah. Like he's about to fucking kill someone. Yeah. I was like, this is, I never heard the movie before. I didn't know like anything about it. I enjoyed it.
I've loved that movie since college. I remember watching it maybe like 10 or 12 times in college.
No fucking way.
I listened to the director's commentary, like, and I know, and I feel like I'm not imparting enough of that information here, but I mean, it's a very easily accessible film. Yeah. It's out there. Go find it. Go watch it. And you will see truly like, not only is it like really impressive filmmaking, in a style that you've not seen George Clooney do since, because, I think one of the problems with George Clooney as a film director is he doesn't really have a voice. And each one of his films is different. And this was a really for his first film, a really experimental sort of, and, I wish he would go back to that, but also a really nuanced and a very like, I don't know, Sam Rockwell should be really proud of that performance. It's so good. Any other films that you thought were...
Yeah, I'm surprised that I in my brain, I thought you were going to choose Moon.
I love Moon. I do love Moon. I love the new version of Moon where they've replaced Kevin Spacey's voice with the voice of Christopher Plummer.
Right, correct. You're right.
Topical.
As I was watching it, like, before I started, and...
You're like, fuck you, Gertie! Stay away from him, Gertie!
Right. I know, I mean, it came on and I was like, oh, fuck, it mostly just hit me like, oh fuck, there are a lot of things that Kevin Spacey is in that I'm going to encounter and it's kind of fucking ruined. Yeah. Because fuck him. Yeah. But yeah, Moon is so good.
And he gets to play various versions of himself. Not too much of a spoiler, but like.
Yeah. And this movie, and it's all him. Literally, all him. There are a couple other people, but like.
I believe the Gertie stuff was most of it was recorded later too.
Yeah.
So like,
I think I read something that like, Kevin Spacey was not going to do it until he like saw the movie done, and then like he recorded it in one day, all the stuff.
Sam, is everything okay?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a fight. Me and the other guy, he's very angry, you know? What he did?
He flipped my entire model over. You know how much work I put into that thing?
938 hours.
938 hours, yeah, exactly. 938 hours, really?
Approximately.
He's got a problem. He scares me, Gertie.
What is it about Sam that scares you?
He flies off the handle. I see it now. I see what Tess was talking about.
Moon is directed by
Duncan Jones.
Yeah, who is
son of David Bowie.
Right, and it's his first movie.
I've met Duncan Jones. He's very nice.
Casual.
I'm not trying to drop names, but like that's one of those ones I'm like, like it was so good to meet him.
Yeah, the movie's so fucking good, and the story is original and exciting. And you really get to see Sam Rockwell play.
Yeah,
like he is there's lots of plot twists and like kind of twists and turns in this movie, and I won't spoil it. But it's really interesting, and like it's sci-fi in a way that's not like unbearable or like it's too much. Like this is a very like middle of the road.
It's a movie that's very direct about its world and what its world is, and like you're not dealing with like everything's not jargon and
right.
Science
It's for sure.
Yeah.
So Moon was really great. What else did we?
I loved Lawn Dogs. Lawn Dogs was one of his independent films early on. It's like a pseudo I'm trying to think of the words, but I'm getting podcast brain at the moment. Like urban fantasy.
It feels like kind of like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie essentially follows the tale of Yubaba, the witch in the woods, blah, 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 blah. I like the movie. I think it's very frustrating though.
Yeah.
Like at the end, I was like, what?
Well, the plot feels really prescient, where it's like,
like, for sure.
This little girl who's like experiencing these things that perhaps she's not ready for. She keeps essentially running into people fucking. But she like at one point she sees her mother, neighbor teen going down on her mom. Yeah. And then he touches her later in the film. And this is what really frustrated me is she tells her parents about him touching her.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, well, his dad's really important. She's like, oh, it just tickled. And they're like, oh, why didn't you say that? But then later, she forms this friendship with Sam Rockwell, but he's lower class.
Yeah.
And he gives her a turtle and they freak the fuck out. And they're like, a man doesn't give you anything unless he wants something.
Right.
And it just, it killed me so much. Like, I was like, this feels so right. Like
this movie, like what I'm at that moment, in the end, like, things do not go well for Sam Rockwell's character. And as far as, the relationship with this girl, and he knows, and he's like, it needs to be very,
right.
specific.
And it's just friends. Like, I do not want to stress this. This isn't, what it is he's one of the only people in her life. She's a girl who's experienced a lot of trauma as well. She's had 4 open heart surgeries or something like that. He's the only person that will treat her like a human being instead of something precious to be. And she's the only person that will treat him like a fellow child, essentially.
Right.
She'll let him, cause he's weird and eccentric.
People say you're trash.
Yeah, I guess they do.
I wouldn't like that.
You get used to it.
My father says if everyone worked hard, there wouldn't be any poor people. You're a poor person, aren't you? He says that anyone who works hard can be rich, just like him.
Sounds like you got a smart daddy.
Trash is something you put a lid on because it stinks. You don't smell that bad.
That makes my day. The way I see it, you got people who own lawns and you got people who mow them. And they're never the same people.
This movie seemed, as I was watching the trailer, I was like, what is this movie about and how are they selling this? Because it's not clear what they did, but it's interesting enough, and Sam Rockwell looks great in it, so.
Any other?
I liked Conviction a lot. It's mostly it's just a fascinating story about a woman who, her brother was wrongfully accused of murder, and she literally just destroys her entire life to exonerate him.
I remember when it came out. I don't know why I didn't watch it, but
so Hilary Swank goes to law school, and she's essentially she gets divorced because her husband's like, you need to get over this. And she's like, no, I'm not going to. And, and she just works for years and years and years and years. The sad part of the story is, and it's not part of the movie, but 6 months later, after he got released, he had an accident and died.
Oh my God.
After he fell, like the guy, he just like fell and hurt his head and he passed away.
Oh no.
So I like that movie a lot. I think him and Hilary Swank, they play brother and sister, and you don't get to see a lot of movies about brother and sister love.
Yeah.
A lot. So I like the movie a lot. And I guess we just watched his new movie, and
yes.
It's
do you want to move into the I know it's out, but do you want to move into fast forward and talk about it?
Let's go.
Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Is his new film that's out right now. It's his reteaming with Martin McDonagh, which he did Seven Psychopaths, which I mentioned I do not love, but that's fine.
And the movie is, like I mentioned to you when we watched it, it's so relentless.
Yeah.
It's relentless, and they do not sell this the way I think the movie actually is. It's a lot funnier than you think it will be.
Absolutely.
It's less revengey than you think it'll be, but it's, Frances McDormand's character is relentless in her pursuit of, justice or truth or whatever.
Right. If you've not seen the trailers, it's a film about a mother whose daughter was raped and murdered. She decides to put up 3 billboards because she doesn't think the police are working hard enough to, solve her daughter's murder. And the chaos it causes in town, and it's literally just escalation after escalation after escalation.
And it's not just, it truly is about the chaos in town, because it's not about like actually finding the murderer.
Right.
It's literally how this community is affected by the outrage of this woman, and there's a big subplot with Woody Harrelson. Which is truly...
It takes over at least, I would say, a fifth of the film, which when, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you only have 2 hours, that's it suddenly becomes its own little short film.
It does, and it's really moving and engaging. I don't know if we needed it, but I think it's interesting in the fact that, like I was mentioning to you earlier, this is not just a linear movie about, this woman and her cause to, find the truth or whatever. It really is... I mean, the supporting cast is very, there's a lot of supporting cast characters, and they're not just there. They have things happen to them, because of what she is doing.
Right.
And I think a lot of the movie is about, what is there's the whole eye for the eye thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of your rage and letting it out.
And this is another example of a film that I actually don't think there's a ton of quote unquote likable characters in the film, but they're real. And I think that's maybe what I was getting at with the Hess stuff, whereas these are real people, they contain multitudes, and you really feel those multitudes. So you feel for these people going through these things, because Frances McDormand is nice to no one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she, you really root for her a lot of the time, because you see, all these different facets of her. Sam Rockwell's character.
Very unlikable.
Incredibly unlikable.
And yet, he has such a great arc in this movie.
Right.
Hey, fuckhead!
What?
Don't say what, Dixon, when she comes in calling you a fuckhead. And don't you
Shut
come
up!
in here.
You get over here.
No. You get over here.
All right.
What? Don't, Dixon!
What?
You do not allow a member of the public to call you a fuckhead in this station house.
That's what I'm doing. I'm taking care of it in my own way, actually. Now get out of my ass. Mrs. Hayes, have a seat. What is it I can do for you today?
Where's Denise Watson?
Denise Watson's in the clank.
On what charge?
Possession.
Of what?
2 marijuana cigarettes. Big ones.
When's the bail hearing?
I asked the judge not to give her bail on account of her previous marijuana violations, and the judge said sure.
You fucking prick.
You do not call an officer of law a fucking prick in his own station house, Mrs. Hayes. Or anywhere, actually.
What's with the new attitude, Dixon? Your mama been coaching you?
No. My mama doesn't do that.
And at the end of it, you are rooting for him to learn, grow, change, and find common ground with Frances McDormand's character. I like the movie a lot. It's jarring.
Yeah. I liked the characters a lot more than I liked the movie. I'll be honest. I was a little surprised at the critical reaction to it. I think it's a well-made film, and I think it's got some really hearty characters in there.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I didn't like, at a certain point, it escalated to a point where I was just like, everyone needs to stop. I was like, everybody just I said, calm down.
Like, as I'm saying though, it's relentless. Like, it just doesn't stop. And there are moments when people were like gasping about, and gasping from like,
oh my God, what was the part? There was a part in the movie where two different people in the audience just went, oh my God.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
it's, when Sam Rockwell's character like ends up and goes and like kind of has violence against someone else, and I think all of us were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
but I had not been in the theater that it had like dominoed that way before. Right. It was like a woman next to us and a woman behind us.
Yeah.
Like, also I will say, one of the great things about doing this episode, the woman sitting next to me during one of Sam Rockwell's very first scenes in the film, because he's so good and so charming, she turns to her husband or boyfriend or whatever, I don't know, her life partner, who cares? And she's like, I don't know who he is, but he's great.
Yeah.
And then got to the end credits and she's like, oh, Sam Rockwell.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's why I like doing this episode.
Because, I mean, like, everyone I've told that we were doing this episode, they were like, who? And I'm like, trying to find, like, I was like, Charlie's Angels, Iron Man, like, Matchstick Men. It's hard to, like, kind of, like, find, like, what he is, quote, known for.
Right.
But once you see him, you're like, oh, that guy. He's, like, really great. Like, I love him.
So, I just, real quick, want to talk about some of the things he has, coming up.
Yeah.
And, I'm curious if, about what you think he should do going forward. So, after Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, he has a film called Woman Walks Ahead, in which he plays Colonel Silas Grove. He has a movie called Blue Iguana that's in post-production now. There's the rumored cameo in Mute, which is in post-production now. Then in 2018, he has Backseat.
Where he's playing
George W. Bush, which
I cannot wait.
Yeah,
I cannot
Backseat is a film about Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting to see. He also has two other films, Best of Enemies and Blaze, coming out. So he, as we mentioned before,
keep him busy.
Yeah, he works. He works and works and works and works. And I don't want to see him slow down.
No, absolutely not.
What do you think is the correct path going forward?
I mean, he's getting lots of buzz for an Oscar this year, once again, and so it'll be interesting to see.
I feel really bad if, like, the third time around he's gotten, like, because there was, like, Moon and The Way, Way Back, and, like, this time, like, is this his time to
I'm
get
surprised he wasn't talked about for Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, maybe, and so what all I've been reading though is that so not only is the performance great, but Hollywood seems to love him.
Yeah.
People like working with him, and so it seems like they would congratulate one of their friends.
So far, he's not been involved in a scandal.
Right.
Now's the time.
Now's the time for Sam. Yeah, I don't know. I love him in comedies. I mean, so Laggies, we didn't talk about a lot, but like, he's just kind of like a good guy, and like, you just don't see a lot of like genuine good, guy characters that are like smarmy or want something as well, and so I want more of that, but I also love when he like is able to just go fully insane.
Yeah.
Like Hitchhiker's Guide stuff. I'm truly, truly excited for the George W. Bush.
Yeah.
He plays Southern.
That's the one I'm really excited for too.
He plays Southern very well.
Yeah.
And he plays dumb very well.
Yeah.
And George Bush is both of those.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually don't have, in terms of like analyzing his career and looking at all the things we looked at, I don't have much advice, like in terms of what I think he should do. I think he's doing it. I think I really, like, no constructive criticism except maybe stop working with that Hess guy.
Right.
Like, do the weird comedies, do the straight up dramas, do it all, man, because you got the chops. So,
I mean, like I want like,
maybe more nudity.
Maybe more nudity. Bring
more
that back.
nudity if you could.
He's really good at being villains also.
Yes.
And like, we didn't talk about The Sitter. The Sitter's not a great movie.
Oh, I didn't watch it. I can't. It's funny. David Gordon Green, who directed The Sitter, used to make movies. He made this really good movie called Snow Angels with Sam Rockwell. And we didn't talk about that either. And I love Snow Angels. Genuinely
and then he made The Sitter.
And then David Gordon Green started hanging out with James Franco.
Oh, the worst.
Then you got the post-Pineapple Express era David Gordon Green.
Right. He just plays really, like, Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
So good. Like, he has that kind of, like, James Bondian feel.
Yeah, there's a suaveness to him, but it's not a threatening. That's why it's actually genuinely, I mean, when you watch Charlie's Angels, I genuinely think that was my first exposure to him, knowing who he is and knowing he's a presence. One of the things that's great about him is there is a suaveness about him, but it's not threatening at all.
No.
It doesn't come off as creepy. It doesn't come off as, but he generates it and then he can twist it if he needs to.
He uses his powers for good.
Yeah, exactly. just keep using those powers for good, Sam.
I love you, Sam.
But that, I guess, wraps up our Sam Rockwell conversation. But if you have anything to add to it, or you'd like to correct us on anything, feel free to find us online.
We're in lots of places.
Absolutely. You can find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're on Facebook at The Mixed Reviews.
You can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
And you can download us like literally everywhere.
Absolutely. So if you are on iTunes, if you're on Stitcher, on Google Play Music, some of our episodes are even up on SoundCloud. And also, if you're an iTunes listener, feel free to rate and review us. If you give us a good review or a good rating, it helps other people find us, and we want them to listen to our beautiful voices.
Right.
Especially because Time Out New York circulation only goes in New York City. So
true. And also, you can just like rate us as if you're rating Sam Rockwell. Like,
absolutely.
Pause Lawn Dogs when he's naked and just write us a glowing review as you like bask in the glory of Sam's naked body.
His Rockwell's Rockwell.
Ugh. Enough of that joke. Enough of this.
So we will be back in 2 weeks with a new subject, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
1, 2. Prince is now before you. That's what I said now. Princes who adore you. Go ahead now. One has diamonds in his pockets. That's some bread now. This one, he wants to buy you lock.